Hey guys, it's Thursday, January 11th at 11:25 p.m. I have no idea why I tell you that. I just do. Deal with it. Okay, so let's get through these clips. I have quite a bunch. I'm not sure what I'll get done tonight, but it's Thursday night, and I can handle being a little tired on Friday to be able to put some of these things out there. So there's two things that other people have mentioned to me that they heard from Mike over the weekend, and one of them was about rest. So let's see what the man had to say.
When you're lying in bed, think upon the things of God, and he said, your sleep shall be sweet. It's a good night's sleep. I would suggest you get one. It's funny, isn't it? The Bible has all this stuff in there about the righteous shall sleep sweetly, and that God never sleeps. He will watch over you, and your rest shall be wonderful, and all these things the Bible says. But then you turn around, you have a bunch of church people that never go to bed and get any rest. And then you come into church or wherever to work on Monday morning, and you're just say, how was your weekend of rest? Hey, yeah, it was pretty good. You're going to cut your hand off in some machine, or you're going to run into, I remember one preacher, when he was in Bible school, he was running on just a few hours sleep, and he fell asleep at the wheel down in Ording coming down 162 and slammed into the back of a big truck and broke his face all up, his jaw and everything, and they had to wire his jaw shut, and he was eating with a straw for a while. And still today, when I see him, I notice the scar on the side of his face, and I think, I know how that happened. That was a Bible school student that wouldn't get any rest.
Look how he spins this, and look at his lack of compassion. He wouldn't get any rest, almost like he refused to sleep. These students, they just refuse to sleep. They're just staying up, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, because they don't want to go to sleep, right? It's like something you have dreams about. You have dreams. You're wide awake, but you're having dreams. You're just daydreaming and longing and aching to be asleep. But this dude is saying he just wouldn't go to sleep. He just refused to go to sleep. He refused to get sleep.
Amen. I'm just saying, don't get upset about it. It's just talking here. I want you to get some rest. You need to get rest as much as you can because your body needs it.
This may sound like an extreme example, but it works for me, or illustration. It's like somebody being thrown into a cell, maybe even chained, but thrown in a cell anyway, and told when they can and can't come out, and yet they're saying through the door, you really need to get out and get you some sunshine, man. You would just feel so much better if you could just breathe that fresh air. Okay, I'd like to come out now then and do that. Oh, no. Can't have you doing that, because no, that just wouldn't work. You just stay in there. You just stay in that room. But I'm telling you, you really need to get out. You would feel so much better and got a lot more done if you would just go outside in the fresh air and sunshine. But you refuse to do it. I get it.
And then you also won't be as forgetful. You won't make as many mistakes. Your typing will be better. Your listening will be better. Everything will be better if you're rested up. Then your energy is restored, and you can get fired up, and you can get things done. Sometimes we don't get things done because we don't take care of our bodies and we don't feel like getting things done. It's just what people do, right? Amen. It's what we do sometimes. Throw me in there. I know I do it.
I had thought to pull out a whole whiteboard on Microsoft and record that and show the breakdown, but I'm not going to. I'll just tell you, I think you can picture it just fine. I'm going to start by saying, back when my oldest daughter was in first grade, we lived in Puyallup. My daughter went to Ridgecrest Elementary School, for those who are familiar with the area. And her teacher was a boob. She just was. She's one of those people who had a reputation for being moved around in schools every time she messed up. So what happened was, because we went to conference during that time, and we also had some weeks of revival where we were in church every single night. And so my daughter was in the program for the gifted kids. I mean, she was very self-initiated. I think it's where my granddaughter gets it from. And so I recall one day, this is how this woman was. She really reminds me of Mike. As she's walking away down the hall after school for the day, and I'm standing there with my daughter by my side, the daughter who's getting straight A's, who is vigilant about getting all her work turned in, who brought it with her to conferences to do in the car, that kid, right, is standing there. And this lady turns around partially down the hall where teachers and parents and other kids could hear, and said, she made a comment about the school that she's missing, and that she just made a snide remark about it. So there was nothing I could say. She just turned around, said it, and then went on her way. No, I could not respond or say anything. So I went home and I did the math. And because her whole thing was she's missing so much school. Well, clearly she's doing it anyway. It's like, you don't have to be in the school building to get an education. You don't have to be in the church house to have something happen with God. You're not waiting around all week or all day. Man, I can't wait till we get to that building so something can happen spiritually in my life. But that's what she was putting out there. And it's just the same thing. So that came to my mind today as I was putting this. So I went home and I did the math. I broke down each day. Now, I helped in the school, in the classes all the time, in her class and in my youngest daughter's class. And so I knew what they did all day. So I took, when you come into school and you sit down in homeroom and you hear all the messages, and I allowed for that time, and then how much what they did in each class, in each little segment of the day. And then there's lunch, and then there's walking over here and there to do recess or some kind of activity in the gym. And at the end of the day, they all have to get ready early, start shutting it all down to be ready for the bus. So I came out with, I think, each day about, I didn't want to sit here and do all that math again, but I believe I came up with, out of a full day, like maybe 2.5 hours of actual academic. I spoke to her the next day, and I told her, I said, you could have just talked to me. I'm standing right there, and I help her in the classroom. She knows my personality and all. She's just not a nice person. And so, is a nice person someone who sits in the back of the room and peels a hard-boiled egg during class while your kids are trying to watch a video or something on the projector? That is not a nice person. That is like a person that does that on a plane. It's evil. So, she took offense to the fact. I said, Diana's not missing anything. She does the work. She's diligent about it. The kid cares. Like, she stresses about it. If she's not getting it done, she wants to turn it in. She wants to get a good grade. That's her thing. You know that about her, if anyone knows that. And she did not take into account the feelings of my daughter. She just said it. She said it out there. And you know how little kids are. First grader. Oh my goodness. To be called out by your teacher, who is supposed to be an adult you want to trust, you want to please, to say down the hallway statements about where you're at or where you might decline to, and you're doing this in front of people. You are trying. I don't want to say trying. I think she was too oblivious to be trying. It was just part of her personality. She didn't care. She did not think about the fact that that little girl was standing there, like, folding within herself and just looking around to see who heard. It's so similar to the way this group works that it's actually quite stunning. It's not taking into account people and what they're going through and what it's like for them. No, I'm up here. I live by the church. I live by the school. I can get here on time. Why can't you? I'm getting rest. Why can't you? And back to the teacher thing. And I could see if she was having poor or failing grades to associate it with our schedule. And it was a hard schedule. Come on, you parents out there. I need an amen and an amen from you on this. That was a real thing. The time of church at night, how long it could last, and by the time you get home, it was terrible. No kid got rest. He's talking about rest here. I'm just like, what planet is this guy on? What planet? Because he's never had to deal with any of this in his life. Not with his child, not with himself. He even says he gets up the last minute to come racing over to the church. He's not out there picking people up or meeting people to sit with them in church or any of that. He doesn't do any of that. Anyway, so when I did that, I just left her with that. It was just like a matter-of-fact thing that I said, well, I broke down the day, and it's this much academic. She's not missing if she's gone for, let's say, a week of conference, and she takes her work with her. And so she told on me. She told the principal. I got a call from the principal, and she said, oh, Mrs. Pelfrey, I wanted to ask you about this whole thing of breaking down the day. And I said, yes, ma'am. That's, can you even, I'm there in the school during the day, a good chunk of the month. So, because I do want to see what goes on, but I was teaching as an art docent. So I would just go in and present art in its historical context and do little projects with the kids because they were looking for someone to do that. And I thought, I care about these kids, so, and I really enjoyed them, so I liked doing that. It's the same reason I really enjoyed children's church when I was in the group. And so she just wanted to let me know she took issue with it. I said, well, I don't know how you can argue with just a straight breakdown. Am I wrong in anything I've broken down? And she couldn't answer it. So it was just stopped dead in its tracks. That was it. I said I could see if the kid was having trouble, but she's not. And clearly, I'm an involved mom. I care about her education. So, when I heard him say this in that one service, I really absolutely had to pick my jaw up off the floor because I thought, this is so typical of leaders in extremist authoritarian / church cult groups. This is what they do. They keep people tired and on the run and consuming every part of their day and not allowing them to have rest. Because they say if you're not here all the time, and you're required as a Bible school student, you don't even have a choice. These church members have a choice, sort of. I really admire the people that recognize what this group is and leave right away. I admire them so much. You know, I'm almost jealous of them. I wish I had the inner fortitude to do that, the strength and lack of fear. But I was also filled with love for certain people too, so I have to balance that out. Anyway, as I heard KEKEL, I was thinking, now I did not sit down and write it all out on paper. I had thought to, but I don't need to. If you take a 24-hour day, let's say you're a married dude and you come to Bible school with your little family, as we did. Your wife cannot work. That's a no-no. So it's imperative that you get to work and take almost anything right away. I think Brian was like pretty much digging ditches when we first got there to Graham in it was January or February of 92. And so the husband is getting up early, and I will go with a roundabout time of 6, somewhere earlier. You get up at 6, you're going and putting in an absolute full day of mostly the men up there are doing physical work. Fortunate for anyone who was able to get a desk job, that's awesome. You could not have to have your body so worn down, thereby making you so tired at the end of the day. Let's say they leave the house at 6. You try to shove a breakfast in their belly and throw them some lunch and get them on their way. They go to their job. They work all day long. Boss does not care that you have Bible school at night and that you have to hurry up and get there. They come racing home. It was not a 9 to 5 thing, my friends. It was not. The days were longer than that, and sometimes they varied considerably. And so depending on where you were coming home from, if you were working on location, like all the brethren who did the insulating or were contractors, you weren't in the same place all the time. And then you still had to bring your truck back to the home base and then go home from there. So there was some hairy nights. But let's just say on average, they get up, they're out of the door at 6. So that means they're up before that, getting everything ready, taken off. They go, they work their full day. You hope to be home by 6 because you have to hurry up and get over to Graham to school. And I don't know what time it all starts now, but it doesn't matter. You have to be there early, of course. We were early people anyway, so that wasn't a problem. But let's say you're over there, by 7:15 to be there in time for class. Because if you are late or can't show up at all, you pretty much were in danger of losing the class and losing the whole semester. And whatever money you had paid, you didn't get a refund from that group. Are you kidding me? My goodness. So they're sitting there then. This is the time when their body just is finally decompressing, and just sitting there trying to listen. Some people were interested in class. Some people were not. They just droned on. And they're trying to take notes, these men, and make sure they have enough notes so that when they type them out, they come to 3 pages double-spaced in a certain kind of folder, right? So now at the end of class, they're not allowed to go anywhere afterwards, almost fortunately. You got to make sure you have your gas and everything ahead of time. You're not supposed to stop on the way home, back when we were in school. And you scurry home. So by then, you're talking like, by the time you get in and maybe finally throw down like some food that wasn't on the run, it's easily 11 or later. And now you've got to start quickly typing notes. Probably still working on the ones you need for the class the next day. So you're up late, you're drinking coffee and eating late at night, which are no-nos. I love my coffee, but I make it I cut it off after a certain point because otherwise it just wrecks your sleep. But that's how they had to stay awake. That's how you have to do it sometimes. So they would have their coffee, they would eat and be typing away and just be falling asleep and trying to get up and walk around and do things, and so you're going to bed late. Let's say you get to bed between 1 and 2, right? Now you're back up again at what time? Like 5:30 to start it all over again. And this goes on day after day. And then on the days there aren't classes, there's church. When you go to church, and it's the same thing. You're still running home, you're still hurrying up, scurrying out the door. And you get there and you hope it's short, really, for the sake of the husband, that it doesn't go on and on for hours. Just because Davis had nothing better to do in his life but drive around and check on construction sites doesn't mean everybody else didn't have a life. And the kids too, were always up way past. So talk about your rest, KEKEL. My goodness, that's so gross. You're going to answer for all this because you can't keep doing this to people. This is mind game right here. This is manipulation and coercion of the highest order. To tell people, you students need to get rest. Maybe you'd get something done. All right, so let's talk. We've got nights where we're going to class, nights where the guys are going to church, and then there's the weekend. Well, there was, especially before the church was open to the public up there in Graham, you could on a Saturday morning go and get like your car done if you needed work on it. Or for me, I would get up early on a Saturday and go and either take the girls with me or leave them with their dad so they could have some time together, and go do some early morning grocery shopping, pick up dry cleaning, that type of thing, because that's really the only time. Bible school students, by and large, I really don't recall anyone off the top of my head that had 2 cars in the family. That was just not a thing. So you either had to get up early on a weekday, take that guy to work, drop him off, go do your stuff, go get him later, stop home, make dinner real quick, go get him, kids in tow, and if they weren't and they were in school, then you had to coordinate all that, and then get back. So Saturdays were good for that, for just getting out and buzzing around real quick. Before the JW style door knocking was instituted, for the most part, these guys, these husbands of little families, did not have time with their kids during the week. And I'll turn that around too, that even husbands and wives that didn't have children, they didn't have any quality time together either. None whatsoever. It was almost impossible, except in the car to and from church. When they started opening the church to the public and starting that door knocking blitz thing like the JWs have, then you had to be there Saturday morning too. And you had to do something with the kids. And that took up the whole morning. And a lot of times there was student service Saturday night. In between all of this, you're trying to get some normal everyday things done. What if you needed to go to, well, you couldn't even afford it until somebody got insurance to go to the dentist or anything. You couldn't squeeze in the time for it. You'd have to take a day off from work for it, which you could not afford. So Saturdays, there were student services at Saturday night. So there was that too. And then Sunday, 2 services on Sunday. Sunday morning, Sunday night. And so, KEKEL, where's the rest? That's why those men were walking around and driving around like zombies and being in accidents. Are you going to tell me that's what God wanted for their lives and wants for their lives right now? Give them permission to have every single week. It seems like somebody said to me in a message earlier, it seems like Sunday should be the day of rest. And yet, it's not. They can't have a day of rest because that's not how groups like this work. Also, money. I have to pay for the real estate. Look at all those buildings up there in Graham. What are half of them for? Just building programs. Just to look like something. Give Davis something to do all day. Everybody else did his stuff and his wife's stuff and Tanya's stuff and Mike's stuff. How many people went grocery shopping for them or picking things up for them, getting dry cleaning, whatever, all the things that you had to do. Your husband had to make sure, well, you did, the wife, but you still need a car to go to the dry cleaner. You still have to swing by and pick it up during the hours they're open. That became almost impossible. So I don't know if they've lightened up on the schedule now, but in between all that, they still have to do all their typing and be ready for classes. And God forbid, one semester, Davis gets a bug up his butt and wants to institute, like, oh, here's a secular book, Who Moved My Cheese, or The Cheese, or whatever it was. Here, read this and do a report on it. This is indoctrination and busy work to keep you absolutely unable to function and to think. You don't have time just to sit there and think. You don't. If you sit down, when these men would sit down on a couch, something soft and fluffy, they fell asleep. They were tired. They were dragging. And the sad part is, they did it as unto the Lord. They did it thinking it was some sort of a sacrifice. They were sacrificing time with their family. They were sacrificing their health and welfare and mental sharpness for God. I mean, if you even say that out loud, you hear how ridiculous it sounds. He's responsible. Him and Davis and Olson, they're all responsible for these men and women through the years who have been in accidents, who have gotten tickets, who have done all these things. And you say, no, you're responsible for speeding, not them. That sounds good on paper. That sounds real good. But when you're in the moment and you are in that dire way of thinking that I have to get there no matter what. God needs me there on time. He needs me to speed. Fortunately, when you're running off to class, your kids aren't in the vehicle with you. But guess what? If something happens to you or to your vehicle, they are directly affected. The possibility was there every single week before every single class. We all have our crazy stories of things that happened. Crazy stories. I mean, crazy stories of jumping through crazy hoops to get to that stupid Bible school on time. To get your busy work in. It is maddening to think about. But this is how cults work. This is how extremist groups work. This is how they get you in your mind. Read about it. Research it yourself. Don't take my word for it. I only know stuff because after I got out, I didn't say, ooh, I'm glad I'm out of that cult. I didn't say that. I didn't know it yet. I had to come to that realization myself. You are going to have to come to that realization yourself. No one can force you. No one, there's not one thing I could say. There's not one thing I could prove. There's not, you can't say to someone, come on, right now, make the decision, leave, leave, leave. No. If you aren't resolved in your heart, if you're not convinced that you can leave this group and still be a Christian, they don't believe that. And we're going to go into that in the next clip. If you don't take the time to look and to listen, there's someone who told me how they left. They told me their story. And they said what helped them was re-listening to the services online, which validated for them what they were thinking, because they were doing their own research. They had a gut feeling, or they had an idea that this place does not match up with the words in the Bible, in the New Testament. No. Do you know how many times we sped like maniacs? And I'm one of those people, I don't want to go 5 miles over the speed limit. That's why I don't have any tickets in my life. Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I drove fast in New Jersey. I can't lie. But, I mean, when I became more responsible, like since last week or something. I'm just teasing. Anyway, I just want you to think about this. He's up there saying that, talking to students about getting rest. Do the math, people. Please do the math. This guy, he has no compunction. Man, I love that word. He has none. And something else I was just thinking about was when they started instituting prayer meetings up in Graham for the women during the day and for the men, or before classes or whatever, I think that was more a free will thing. But they're watching to see who was there, and things would be said in services and in Davis's class. So that was another thing that just added to the pressure and the time crunch. And you know, I saw that they had a New Year's Eve service thing, like not a service, like a pray in the new year. And I thought, at the time, I don't know if it's the mom and the grandma in me that gets concerned for people putting themselves in kind of sketchy situations. But I thought to myself, I hope nobody from outside that little Graham compound area, I hope no one leaves the service. Well, I think what they were going to do was hang around after church, have fellowship, and then go pray. So people are already there. But here's what happens after you're done praying in the new year. You have to drive home. You have to drive home with people on the roads who may be buzzed or just totally flat out intoxicated. You're taking a chance. And seems like anyone who stayed and had children, I don't know what they did with them, but you just have to hope, you hope someone feels like they have the freedom to make their own choice in that regard without feeling like they're going to be judged. Because we will see in the next video clips that I'll be sharing between today and tomorrow, KEKEL and Kinson are watching you up there. They're watching you. They're judging you. That's his job, he said. Somebody sitting there who doesn't know any of this may say, what a sweet man to recommend rest to his students. That's awesome. That's so godly. He has no scruples, none whatsoever. And yet, I still, like others I've spoken to this past week, feel like he's stuck in all of this too. I really do. I know, for most of us, we did not behave this way. So I can't comprehend how someone like that lives with themselves. I just can't. I don't know how how can they say they self-reflect or look within, because if he did, he would not just apologize, but be down on his face asking forgiveness through all the decades where he harmed people with his words and his actions. How come he didn't rather say to these students, man, we really appreciate your dedication and your hard work, and we know it's a lot. We understand. But he doesn't. It doesn't even come natural to him. He does not do that for those students. I've not heard it, and I'm listening. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it so I can have hope. That maybe there's hope for him. Maybe he's just so angry and frustrated to be stuck in this position, feeling like he doesn't have a way out, that this is how it manifests. Only thing is, he's pretty much been like this since we've all known him, so I don't think that's. I'd like to extend that excuse, but I don't think it's a good reason. For me, my reaction to this whole video was, how dare he? How dare he say that? And I don't know what the students now go through, but the time constraints are there and they're real. And it doesn't matter if people live in the Graham area or in the outlying areas, which is worse. It is worse. It just makes the time crunch. It's such a squeeze on their lives. And to say you'd get more done, you'd listen better, you'd get more notes, you'd do better notes, you'd do this, you'd do that. When? Lay it out there for them, man. Put out a flow chart or something, just like your dumb soul-winning guidebook. Put out a flow chart. Show them where they can fit in the time. Go on. Mr. Man who lives 2 minutes up the road, show them. Go ahead. Sorry. It's hard not to get worked up. It's hard not to feel passionate about people going through something you went through. You're on the other side. You've escaped over the wall, so to speak, and I'm just trying to call to you. And you're on the other side of that wall thinking, this is your life. This hurrying and scurrying to and fro. And you think there is no reality in God out there. That's what the man of God told me. I believe him. Well, as long as you keep listening, I mean, you can listen, right? Listen, check it out, see what matches. I have no problem being under scrutiny for whatever I'm saying, because I'm telling you what the shared experiences are, and I know you relate to it. That is what started to break my foundation, was seeing the hypocrisy, seeing the meanness, seeing the way that so many preachers treat people. It's just not right. It's just plain and simple not right. And I don't want to see anyone get involved with this group that's not in there already. And man, I will just rejoice when anyone leaves that place. Anyway, on to the next video. Have a good night.